guys, it's Andrew from the Money Is Show, and today we have a very, very special guest on the show for you. Look, you guys know I interview a lot of really successful people, but today is a little bit different. Today we're going to interview the original gangster, the godfather of real estate and wealth education, a man that has directly influenced my life in my career as I even sit here today. Would not be where I'm at without his training and education. He is an international speaker. He started his education business in 1979, and in 2021, it's still running today. It's amazing as we walk through the office today, all the people that were stopping and talking to him of how they've touched how he has touched their life. I'm sure many of you have seen him, read his books, and today we're going to interview him. Also want to remind you, he's a 5-time, not once, but 5-time New York Times best-selling author. And I heard a little rumor that he has a new book coming out, perhaps in the next year. We're going to dive into that, what that book is, and how it could help you as well. So today on the show, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Robert Allen, the man, the myth, the legend, Robert Allen. Robert, thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, this is exciting, Andrew. This is exciting, especially during these COVID times.
Yeah.
Where we have to turn this into opportunity, right?
Right. That's a great way to put it. And you know this, in every turn, there's downside and there's also opportunity side.
That's right.
And you got to look for what is that new opportunity and how does it work and how does it adjust and pivot your business model. And I'm sure since 1979, you have adjusted and pivoted many times throughout that career. Yeah, we've all had those and so forth. So, Robert, let's back up a little bit. I'm so intrigued. I'm going to kind of share my story a little bit of how I got to know you. But before we do that, I want to hear from you. I know you started the real estate, the wealth education back in '79.
Yeah.
But tell us, back us up to there. How did you get into this space?
Well, I graduated with an MBA from BYU.
Okay.
In 1974.
Okay.
And it was a terrible recession at that time. Mm. And therefore, I was one of 2 people that didn't get hired out of our class. And I said to myself, well, do I really want to work for somebody else for the rest of my life? I mean, do I really want to work for Procter & Gamble and please don't squeeze the Charmin, you know? And I said, you know what, I read this book, Think and Grow Rich.
Okay.
Can't I just think and grow rich? Right? And then I also read another book by Nickerson, How I Turned $1,000 into $1 million in real estate in my spare time. He was maybe even the original grandfather, really. And I said, I have $1,000 my dad gave me for graduation, so why don't I just go out into the market and start, buy a property? So I bought my first property with that $1,000. Now I had nothing left, and so I was broke and no job and one piece of real estate that I bought on a contract where I didn't have to get, credit checks and things like that, and then I flipped it.
Right.
Now, we didn't call it flipping back then. We called it, I don't know. We sold it.
You sold it.
We
You
didn't
moved
flip
it.
But I flipped it in like less than 30 days.
Wow.
And turned my $1,000 into $6,000. Now I was saying to myself, well, I can make $5,000 a week or a month. That'd be pretty good money. And so I bought a 7-unit building, and then a 12-unit building, and then a 10-unit building, and then a 40-unit building, and then lots of single-family homes. And I was a millionaire within. I say on the low side 3, on the high side 5. I can't even remember, to tell you the truth. But that was kind of how I got started. But tell you the truth, what I found was I liked to teach it. Mm-hmm. And I said to my wife, let's launch a little seminar. We need some money because our highly leveraged real estate had some negative cash flows.
Sure.
So when you buy with nothing down, you're really pretty thin, right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So let's make a little extra cash flow. So I ran an ad in the Provo Herald, a little classified ad saying how to buy real estate with little or no money down.
In the newspaper.
And the phone just went ballistic.
Wow.
And I had this little seminar. I taught a 4-week seminar at the, can't even remember the name of the hotel's gone now. It got torn down. It's on the corner of BYU entrance. And anyway, the 10 people paid me $75 for a 4-week class, and I liked it. And I thought, well, I wonder if we could do a little larger. So I bought a $300 ad, and I'll never forget how terrified I was that this $300 ad with a little picture of me and how to buy real estate with little or no money down. And it just went nuts. My first seminar was at the Royal Inn. That's what it was called.
The Royal Inn.
And the Royal Inn, and it was 100 people. Spent about $100 for a day-long seminar. And I'm looking at the receipts when we're done. I'm thinking 100 times 100. That's $10,000. This is 1979.
Right, right.
And $10,000 in one day. Could I do that in real estate? Real estate has an upside, but it's a limited upside because my rents can only increase so much, my equity can only increase so much. But if I have 100 students, can I find another 100 students? It has an unlimited upside.
Yeah, sure.
So we ran a full-page ad in the
no.
Salt Lake City newspaper, and I can't even remember how much. What it was, a terrifying amount of money, and like 200 people spent $200, and like $40,000 in a weekend. And then I went to LA, and it was 100 people spent, let's see, how much, $500, and I can't even remember what the money was, but it was 100 grand in that weekend. And I thought, this is good. But it wasn't because I like the money. I obviously like the money, but I got these success stories. Now you told me. I heard your success story today.
Oh, you had never heard it before?
Never heard of it before.
Never knew me?
No, did not know you.
Sure.
Did not know you. Was introduced by, I did this webinar with this one guy. He asked me to do a webinar, and the connections come about, and you invite me to come on today. I didn't know your story.
Right.
And then I go into another office in here, and somebody else tells me another staggering story. And when you change one life through one little book, you changed the world. See, what did I do with your life? How has that influenced you? Now you're on this show, talking to thousands and thousands and thousands of people, and you as entrepreneurs, I don't know which camera I'm looking at.
Yeah.
As
You got that one right there.
As an entrepreneur, you have a dream. You have what you want to accomplish. You have a desire to change your life. If you're an entrepreneur, you're different than an employee. An employee, they're motivated by security, by being careful. They're motivated by making small, slow money. And they're going to retire in 50 years from now, and they'll make a lot less money. Entrepreneurs, we don't want to make big, fast money. And 5 years is our limit. By 5 years, we want to be done, or we want to make a big chunk of money, and that's what happened for me. If you're an entrepreneur and you stumble onto this show and you stumble on the things that this guy is teaching you, it changes your life. One idea that he could share with you could transform the direction of your entire life. And then as your life grows, more people around you start being influenced by your influence, and now you are influencing a generations of lives like you are doing. And so I'm so humbled by that. That's why I don't do a lot of real estate anymore.
Yeah.
You were showing me pictures of the properties that you guys are buying here, and I'm like, I'm awed. I'm totally blown away by you doing what I should be doing. But I got so focused on the teaching part. I like to speak. I like to teach. I like to transform. Because I often said I would rather fix up a human being than a piece of real estate any day.
Yeah.
So people fix up real estate, and they're passionate about it, and they love it, and that's what they were born to do.
Right.
I was born to transform or to fix up people, and that's what I do.
Yeah, and the stuff that I share, there's so much truth there, and I like the two words. I use the two words, impact and influence.
Yeah.
And I think they're a little bit different. I think that impact, how I say it is, you impacted my life, right? It was a one-on-one, a book that impacted my life. And because you impacted my life, the next phase of that is I talk about you all the time. And your influence grows by those that you impact. So when you impact someone's life,
nice, I like that.
They will turn around and of course share and talk about you and what you did for them, which is really creating that massive, which you have, that international, worldwide influence. Because your influence of affecting people was not because you ran an ad in a newspaper. It was because of the results that were created by the people that you impacted. And when you impact someone's life, they will remember it and they'll talk about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a testament to you and to how much influence you have, because you have impacted so many people's lives and throughout the time. I want to talk to you a little bit about your books that you've written.
Okay.
Let's start at the very first one that you wrote, and then
Nothing Down.
And then one question I for sure have I want to ask you is which one has been your favorite one so far? So you can think about that question. But let's talk about some of the books that you've written so far. What was the very first one that you wrote?
Nothing Down came out in 1980.
1980.
So that's been 40 years ago. It hit #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. It sold 1 million copies, and I still get royalties from that book 40 years later.
Wow.
That was followed up by Creating Wealth, also #1 New York Times bestseller. And then that was followed up by a book called The Challenge, which is a terrible title.
Okay.
You know, Creating Wealth, duh. How to Buy Real Estate with Nothing Down, duh.
Sexy.
But The Challenge, well, it was me doing one of my famous challenges. Now, you might have heard of this crazy guy that went to San Francisco with an LA Times reporter, and they took away my wallet and gave me $100 US and said, buy a property in 72 hours or we'll make your name mud.
Yeah.
Because I had said, send me to any city, take away my wallet, give me a $100 bill, and in 72 hours I'll buy an excellent piece of real estate using none of my own money. So in order to promote Nothing Down, because the people were so skeptical, the media is so skeptical, especially of rich people and of people who are in the rich people education. We're teaching wealth education. We're teaching people how to have financial prosperity and abundance. And why would you live and work in America where $1 million is going to go through your fingers in your lifetime and end up with nothing? How can that be?
Right.
So why don't you just figure out how to have an extra $1 million by the time you retire? So this part of me going to these cities and doing these challenges was to overcome the skepticism. So I said, you know, wealth. People don't understand wealth. They think wealth is stuff. It's material stuff. It's a house. It's an apartment building. It's gold. It's silver. It's a business that generates revenue. And what I was trying to prove when I went to San Francisco was, okay, take away my wallet and I'll show you what my wealth is.
Oh, interesting.
See, the banker thinks it's cash flow, credit, collateral. Those are the 4 C's that the banker needs. But those things they took away from me, and they gave me $100 US, and they left me with my wealth. See, and most people get all this messed up. When people jump out of buildings like in the Depression, it's because they were assuming that their wealth was lost.
Right.
And it never gets lost.
Right.
I lost my wealth a couple of times in terms of bankruptcies and things like that. Yeah, that's happened to me. But even in bankruptcy, they didn't take away my wealth.
Yeah.
You know, they created an opportunity for me to show my wealth. So what I did is I said, give me the other C's. Give me credit. Give me credibility, and give me chutzpah. That's a C word. Give me confidence, and give me creativity, and give me clarity. And those C words, when you have those inside you, and you are very clear on what you want to get done with a deadline, which I did, 72 hours. I had to buy a property in 72 hours. So now I proved that I just have to follow a system, which is, how do you find a highly motivated seller? How do you negotiate with that person? How do you be credible with that person when you have nothing?
Right.
You have to be able to create trust with them. They have to trust you that you will not take advantage of them. And so that's what I was basically trying to emulate, to distribute to them, to say, trust me, you're going to sell me your property with nothing down. You cannot lose, because it's my word. And bottom line, it took one day to find my first property.
Took you one day.
One day, and we bought 6 more in the next day. And when I was at 56 hours, I was so completely exhausted. I gave the reporter $20 back in change. I spent $80 and I gave him $20 back. And then, of course, that's made me ridiculously famous for maybe the wrong reasons. The book, The Challenge, was me going to an unemployment line, because I'd go on a media like this and I would say, oh, send me to any city, take away my wallet, you know, and people are going, that's kind of braggadocio. And I said, no, I'm doing that to prove to you that I'm not special. And they might say, well, you're maybe glib and you may be able to persuade people. But I said, send me to any unemployment line. Let me select someone who's broke, out of work and discouraged. And in 2 days' time, I'll teach them the secrets of wealth. And there are secrets. And in 90 days, they'll be back on their feet with $5,000 cash in the bank that they earned in those 90 days, never to set foot in an unemployment line again. So the third book is that story where we went to St. Louis, took away, went to the unemployment lines, selected people, said, you're going to have to work with me for 90 days. You can't do anything else. I'm going to tell you exactly what to do. And so the book is the story. It's in a fictionalized account of the true story of me going to those places. But the problem was, the challenge sucks. The challenge was the title, and the subtitle was "Send me to any city," or "Send me an unemployment line. Let me select someone who's broke, out of work, and discouraged. In 2 days' time, I'll teach them the secrets of wealth." So it was a terrible subtitle. It was a terrible title, and it sold the worst of all of my books, even today.
Wow.
But in that book, it is my best book, no doubt about it, because in that book, I talk about mindset. And I'm saying to these poor folks, how do you turn somebody who is stuck in poverty and teach them in a short, like 2 days, to transform the way they think?
Right.
And so that they can make some serious money and they can buy a property with nothing down, knowing that they are in an unemployment line, for crying out loud, right? So that book is my best one. I think it's my best book. It was my worst selling, but it was my most profitable book, because in that book, I didn't know about lead generation at the time. And I put a little thing in there saying, you want the audio cassette that I gave to these poor people called The Blue Vase Story, how I retrained their thinking through this little, you want the audio cassette? I'll send it to you for free. I didn't realize how powerful that would be. And it only sold like 60,000 copies of that book. About 10,000 of them, gave me their database, gave me their email, and I sent them this free stuff. And it cost me some serious money, but 5,000 of those people attended a 5-day seminar for $5,000. So what is 5,000 times 5,000?
2.5?
$25 million. And so because that little thing is, it turned it into my most successful, big money in a short period of time. So if you're an entrepreneur, you've got to sell something. And so what we sell is how you change your mind. You have to figure out what you want to sell. So what I was selling to these people on the unemployment line was selling themselves on themselves. You have to believe in yourself, and then you have to go buy and sell something, real estate, and then the seminars that I taught were what I upsold from that. That led to the multiple streams of income. Right. And that is probably my most popular book. That is the book that you read at 19 years old.
At 19 years old, yeah.
And it was, I had just come through a 10-year hiatus because of a bankruptcy, where I was an avalanche right up, we are here in Utah, so right up the mountain is Sundance Ski Resort, and my cabin was there and was avalanched in 1986.
Wow.
And having made millions of dollars in those 6 years from 2000 to 1986, then the avalanche destroyed everything, because the bank had a loan on it, and I had used my assets for collateral, and when the avalanche destroyed the cabin, the insurance company wouldn't pay.
Wow.
So now I have collateral that the bank owns, and they sell everything. And I go from multi-millionaire to $3 million in the hole in 6 months. Yeah. And so now what do? Send me to any city, take away my wallet, and give me $100, which is about what I had left. And I had to start all over again from zero. And I would not give away that experience for all tea in China, as they say. Yeah. It changed my life, because I began to really understand from my own experience what it's like to have nothing, what it's like to be bankrupt, what it's like to have your front page, your name on the front page of your local newspaper, showing how you have lost it all. You were this big, high-flying, you know, big wig,
Sure.
and now I'm nothing. Wall Street Journal, nothing. And yet, I'm not nothing.
Mm.
My wealth is inside me.
Yeah.
And if I can take that experience and not be pained over it, see, a lot of people have bad experiences in their life and they're still reliving those experiences. And so they go back to those bad experiences and they think, well, what an idiot I was and how stupid I was and how come whatever they go through, a divorce or whatever pain experiences. And if you can't learn from those experiences, then you're going to relive them for the rest of your life and it'll affect you. What I have a talent for, I don't know why, I don't take any credit for it, but I learn from my catastrophes. And this was a catastrophe. It was an avalanche. It avalanched everything in my life, except for my relationship. And the reason I love my wife so much, we're 44 years now, 44 years we just celebrated, because during that depression in our life, the catastrophe of our life, she didn't leave me. She didn't say, we shouldn't have made that mistake or whatever. She's still there today. There's a reason I love her today, and I always will. She's my stay, you know.
Yeah.
We had to move to California and had to start all over again from scratch. So I had to learn from my first 3 books, and then Multiple Streams of Income came out of the middle of that. I wrote Multiple Streams of Income in the middle of my bankruptcy.
Wow.
Now, I don't know if you know Think and Grow Rich, but Napoleon Hill wrote Think and Grow Rich in the middle of the worst catastrophe in his personal life, not just the depression which he was living through, but in 1937 he was living in a 1-bedroom apartment with his new wife and his son and his son's new wife in a 1-bedroom apartment in Hell's Kitchen. And Think and Grow Rich. You want to appreciate Think and Grow Rich? Because he had to think and grow rich. And he wrote that book when he had nothing.
Yeah.
And so that's why I respect him. And in my case, I had to dig out of that. And then Multiple Streams of Income went nuts, you know. And even I go around the world, somebody comes up to me, you wrote Multiple Streams of Income? That was followed by a partnership with Mark Victor Hansen where we wrote The 1 Minute Millionaire, Cracking the Millionaire Code, and Cash in a Flash. Those were my most, publicized books. My more recent one is what I've learned from, 40 years of teaching this stuff, is I can teach people in an audience, and one person will go do it, and the other person won't. And they have the same information and pretty much the same kind of mindset. And I say to them, well, why did you do it and why did you not do it? And it turns out that, the mindset, you need 3 skills in order to succeed at anything. You need system skills, which is how do I make this business work? How do I make this internet site work? How do I make this real estate business work? That's the system, what I call system skills. People skills. You need people skills. You have people skills.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wow. You see him running around the office. This guy's amazing. And then you need mindset skills. And when I ask audiences all around the world, which of those is the most important set of skills to have? They're all important. And 90% of the time, they'll all say people. They'll say mindset skills. I'll have them vote, tell me which is the most important, and it'll be mindset skills. I think mindset skills is about 2/3 of it, and I think people skills is about 1/4 of it, and I think system skills is about 10% of it. Now, multiple streams of income is 90%, 95% system skills. It's details, techniques, strategies. As you're sharing with me, it's practical. Do this, don't do that. Systems, step by step by step. But what is not taught in multiple streams of income? See, you had it. You had the people skills, you just naturally with that, and then you had mindset skills. So where did you get that from? Because you just decided to go. I remember you telling me the story. You graduated from college. You said, I need to buy a house within 1 month after my graduation, which is exactly what I did, by the way. It took me 1 month, just like you. But you had it. Why did you not doubt? Why did you not say, I don't have any credibility. I mean, who am I? I don't have any real money. I'm just graduated college. I don't have any experience. I mean, why would anybody believe me? Why didn't your critical voice talk you out of buying your first property? Well, mindset is really, really, really important. And some people have it and some people can learn it. And so my last book was called The 4 Maps of Happy, Successful People. The only organizational book where you draw instead of do to-do lists, which is left brain. To-do lists are left brain. Right brain is I need you to draw to tap into this extremely powerful form of your life. And most people in America are right brain. They're 60%, 70% right brain. Where I go to Japan, I'm going to find just the flip in that. That percentage. And so this is a book for right brain people who want to be organized. And I simplify it into clarity, anticipation, ritual, and task. And those 4 skills are absolutely essential if you want to organize yourself to go get something. Because most people don't. They just decide they want something and off they go. And they fail their way into it or not, you know? And they don't have any strategy or infrastructure, you know? They don't. And they're not taught that in school. Why are they not teaching how to think in school? They teach them what to think, but not how to think. And this book teaches you how to think and how to build the mindset, how to piece it together a little piece at a time so that you come away with what you really, 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 really want. And therefore, everything else is subsequent to that, subsidiary to that. And most people, they're overwhelmed with a million things that they could do. And their cell phone is constantly reminding them all the things that they could be doing, and they haven't decided, like Steve Jobs and Warren Buffett, why they're so rich and so famous, because both of them have the same quote, which is, my best skill is saying no. So when he came back to Apple after it was almost bankrupt in the late 90s, he canceled all the products, and he said, we only do a few things insanely great. And therefore you need to decide, I need to decide, what are the 3 things you're going to do in the projects over the next 3 years where you're going to become insanely great. And that took Apple from almost bankruptcy to the most valuable corporation in the history of the world. That one strategy, that one focus. So what 4 Maps does is it teaches you how to focus so that you are tapping into both sides of your brain. I'm rambling. I'm all over the place.
Enamored by all of it. And I remember so many stories as you go through the book, so many different illustrations I'm thinking through. Those are your bestsellers. And it's an amazing story that The Challenge, which is, you said was your favorite book you wrote, but the least amount that was sold ends up being the most profitable one of your business because of the Audible that you put inside of there. And another thing, as you were telling me the story, I was thinking about mindset. And I was thinking about, looking back in my career, right, of how powerful, not even the knowledge of how do I flip this house. I knew all that. I could quote it to you. And we both have been speakers, and I can talk to someone in the crowd that can quote me every last, exactly how to go do it. Every last thing to it. But they've never done it. They've never done it. They could tell me exactly how to go do it, but they've never done it. And I always think through, as you're telling me about the mindset and how really important, and without it, I would not be where I'm at. Without it. The mindset is the driver. It is what's actually being produced. The mindset is the production. The tactics are just the how-to small stuff.
You can hire somebody to do the people stuff, frankly.
And the system.
They hired you to do seminars all around the world. And you did it. You did it. You can hire somebody to do the system stuff. I can hire somebody to go find real estate for me. I can hire somebody to fix up real estate for me. But I can't hire the mindset.
Yeah, so powerful. And after your career here of you have going now for 40 plus years now.
Yeah.
Now let's kind of talk about, if you want to, the project, next book project you're working on. 'Cause
Yeah.
I think it ties into all of this right here.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that a little bit. Your newest book.
It's mindset stuff. It's how do you stack the techniques and strategies so that when you set a goal, I don't use the word goal any longer. I'm saying that so you'll understand.
Okay.
I don't use the word goal. I use the word done.
Done.
Goal is a future-oriented concept.
Okay.
And that's why most people fail at their goals, because they're thinking from their mind in a future-oriented conversation.
Interesting.
Where a done is something, when you think of something you did, you think about it, as in NLP, they'll tell you where your eyes go when you're imagining something or when you're remembering something, and they're totally different parts of your brain.
Right.
And so I want to get them into a done mindset, not into a maybe I'll do it, maybe I'll do this sometime in the future.
Right.
Maybe I'll figure it out. No. When you say you're going to do something, you don't say it unless it's done. Meaning, when it comes out of your mouth, you're committing your word that it will be done. Therefore, I ask people to not do what people teach you in the books about success, to set the big goals and have thousands of goals, and the bigger you think, the better it is. I am absolutely the opposite of that.
Okay.
If you're going to tell me you're going to do something in 90 days, what most people do is they overpromise and underdeliver. They do.
Okay.
They overdream because they have these big dreams, and so they want this stuff. Well, I don't want you to overdream. 5 years from now, overdream. 90 days from now, do not overdream. Tell me what you're going to do, and then don't overpromise, actually underpromise to yourself. Because when you say you're going to do something, the first person who hears it is you. And if you say it and don't do it, that destroys your integrity. That destroys your identity. So don't say stuff you're not going to do. So the done is the new word. That's the word I use throughout the 4 Maps book. It means when you're clear on what you're going to get done, and then you commit and you go all in. You make it happen. That means you have to say no to so many things. And you have to have the courage to say no, which is a mindset.
Right.
You don't have the courage to say no, then anything can distract you. So I decide, what I want to get accomplished in 5 years from now, but I have to chunk it down into 1 year dones, 90-day dones, and then 1 day musts. A must is, in order for me to reach this done, I must do these things today. I got to do these 3 little things today. On my must list today is my session with you. You are part of my #1 project. I would not be here if you weren't part of my 5-year future.
Interesting.
So when I got the email from you, I'm going to check, is this a yes or is this a no?
Does it fit into your 5-year?
Does it fit into my 5-year objective? Yeah,
Okay.
my 5-year, I call it ideal.
Ideal?
I'm 5-year ideal. So I go, it feels kind of right. Yeah, I think so. This is one. Therefore, I had to say no to lots of other things today so I could spend this time with you. And boy, was I underestimating how powerful this connection is. I'm stunned by how good you guys are.
Thank you.
You're stunned.
That means a lot coming from you, of course. I want to, before we move on this topic, if they want any of those books that you've written, the 5 New York Times bestsellers, this next book you're working on when it comes out in the future, where's the best place for them to go to get a copy of that book?
Go to robertallen.com.
Just your name, Robert Allen?
Robert Allen, ALLEN.com, and there's a place for you to download a special report from me, and then there's also a place to get a free copy of the 4 Maps book.
So you actually give them a free copy of the 4 Maps.
Little marketing things going on in there.
A PDF marketing thing.
Yeah, it's an email book. It's an e-book.
E-book.
But if you're on that list, then you'll have an opportunity to learn more from me, and I'll be happy to
Because you've been on the international market
Yeah.
for a while now.
For the last 10 years, I've been kind of out of the American market. You know, basically when 2008 happened,
Okay.
and we all know what that was like.
Sure.
I had a massive seminars business, and just like you guys have experienced with COVID, you can have lots of seminars around the world, but if the economy changes and people don't want to, like for instance real estate, which dropped like 50%, 90% in some cities, and I've got a real estate seminar.
Right.
So what are we going to do about that? You know, so nobody comes to seminars when their property that they're living in is underwater.
Right.
Why would they want to go to maybe they wanted the Nothing Down seminar, but so I said, hey, America is no longer my market, so I'll go to China. And I've spoken all over China. Wow, incredible. And they are hungry in China, absolutely hungry. They're wonderful, these entrepreneurs, they're wonderful. Chinese got a pretty bad rap, I think, because of the leaders, but Chinese people are the hardest working, dedicated, smartest, humble, and I love them, I love them. And same with Japan, totally different marketplace, Taiwan. I speak in Russia, I speak in Italy, I speak in England, I speak in Canada, I speak in everywhere else but America. So if you're just coming on the scene and you don't know who this legend that Andrew is trying to describe, it's because you probably haven't heard of this legend. But talk to the people who are in their 40s and 60s and they'll go, oh, that guy.
Robert Allen.
So it's time to come back. I'm 72, I got another good 30 years in me, don't I?
Yeah, for sure.
And it's time to, but on the next book is going to be a really nitty-gritty book on how you fix this, how do you fix your mind.
Let me ask you this question, because you brought a good topic right there. What makes you at 72, with all the success you've had, want to just keep pushing and write another book and keep going? What's driving it?
There's a concept I call purpose.
Okay.
I saw a purpose word written on some of your walls here. Purpose is my understanding of it. It came when I began to realize that some people are on purpose and some people aren't.
Interesting.
And many people, frankly, go through their entire life being off purpose, and they are not on purpose. And they struggle trying to figure out how to get on purpose, and sometimes they never figure it out. So it's very frustrating to many people. For me, purpose is 4 words. Its purpose is passion. What are you passionate about? Not just interested in. You got to be passionate about. It's something that when you go in a bookstore, you only go to the same section every time. You know, when you go to a restaurant, you know, you have the certain kind of foods you just love, and you just never can get off. And the people telling you, try something new, and and you are stuck in this certain passion mode, stuff that you really, really love to do. You're interested in. You know, and you have hobbies that you're passionate about, but so passion is number 1. Number 2 is talent. Now, what are you good at? So what do you love to do is a passion. What are you good at is talent. Now, some people, where do you get talent from? My personal spiritual belief is that we lived with each other before this life. And we were learning and preparing to come here to this earth. And we knew we would show up, and as babies in our little baby brains, we would not know what we just left. Our spirits would still be powerful, would still kind of be this profound spirit that we brought with us. So this part of wealth is we are already wealthy before we got here. And we are profoundly wealthy, but we just haven't figured out yet. So this, forgot where I was at.
Purpose.
There
passion,
we go.
talent.
So purpose means what was my talent? What is my talent? When I woke up, I just started doing other things. So you're an entrepreneur. Now that's a talent. And it's just something that you're just good at. It's just your piece of cake.
Sure.
And for many people, that's not their piece of cake.
Right.
No, they're an employee.
Right.
And they could do a little side business, a little side hustle, but they just don't got it. They could learn into it, but it's a kind of struggle. So this talent part is sometimes you're just good at things and it's your piece of cake. Has somebody ever told you, hey, you're so good at that. I could never do that in a million years. You know, people tell me that about my speaking. You know, they'll say, And when I'm speaking to an audience, I say, how do you do that? Aren't you terrified before you get up there? And I go, no, it never crosses my mind. I just get up and whatever comes out, comes out, and maybe that's good and maybe that's bad. But anyway, so the third one is, what is important to you? What is really, really important to you? And how do you know what's important to you? Easy. You do it. If you say it's important to you and you don't do it, it's not important to you.
Sure.
So don't even tell me you love the spiritual stuff. You don't do it. Sorry. Yeah. It's not important to you. It's going to weigh down the list. And what's important to you are the 1 or 2 or 3 things, like Steve Jobs. 3 things were really important to me to be insanely great, and everything else was 0. So what I'm asking is, what's really important to you? For me, freedom is really, really important to me. Now, you told me to tell you what money is to me. And they told me right from the very beginning not to say freedom.
They walked
not
you
to
in.
say that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You can't take away my freedom by telling me what money means to me. Money means freedom to me. But it also means the freedom to give.
Wow.
And this is the thing I learned at the bottom of my bankruptcy. I went to my spiritual advisor and he said, are you giving? And I'm going, well, how can I give? I'm $3 million in the hole.
Right.
I make a couple $1,000 a month. We moved here from Utah to California. We're broke. I'm embarrassed. He says, you're not giving? You need to give. So I don't have any money to give. And he said, well, yeah, you do. Yeah, if you say you make $2,000, or $1,000 this week or $500 this week, you can give. And I go, I can't do that.
Wow.
And he says, well, just trust me. Try it. See what happens. This was at the bottom of my bankruptcy. So when people hear me talk about giving, they go, oh, he's giving because he's so rich and he's got this surplus. No, I had no surplus. I had 0 surplus. And I gave 10%. And he goes, good for you. Great. And the next week, and I remember it really clearly, the next week it seemed like the problems were less and there was a little bit extra money, and I don't know where it came from. It just seemed like, hey, the banker is not calling me. Actually, the banker called me to tell me that he was going to back off of pursuing me even more aggressively from some of the things I'd lost. And I said, well, okay, I'll just pay the 10% that week. And I paid 10% every week since. I'll tell you what happened. Within a year, my income was so much better than it was before. And it felt so good. Because when you give, you're tapping into the universe.
Yes.
And you're saying to the universe is looking to the world and they're saying, who are the takers and who are the givers?
Sure.
And the world is mostly takers. And you know, because you don't like them. You can tell that's a taker. And then the givers, the reason you like them is because they are on the side of the universe. The universe is a giver. The universe gives. And gives to people who don't deserve it. It's like when a beggar is there on the street and you go, somebody says, well, I can't give to that beggar, because they're just going to go drink it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give to them. Well, you are a beggar. You give. Somebody's on the street, you give. You give them. Somebody needs it, you give. You just give. And you get into the habit of giving, and it's so powerful. I didn't learn that lesson before money was freedom to me, and then I lost my freedom because I wasn't a giver.
Yeah.
And from the very bottom, I began to realize that the whole secret of wealth, if you want to know the secret, you have to decide where to give your money, and you have to give it. You have to go create a project and say, we're doing this project to give. And when you start to give without expecting a return, that is the source of abundance. But when you give expecting a return, like I'm investing in the Bank of Higher Power, I'll give some money because Higher Power will recognize that I'm a good giver, a good guy, and will be my business partner now and will help me 100-fold my money. That's the way some churches teach it.
Sure.
I don't teach it that way because I realize I'm already so overwhelmingly blessed. You and I are in the top 1,000th of 1% of the people who are living on this planet right now. And we are so unbelievably blessed. It's ridiculous. Why would we expect to give something and expect a 100-fold return? We've already got it. We already got it. So we give because we've already got it. And we give because we're overflowing with. And I'm not trying to make myself look like any special giver. What I'm trying to say is that I had to learn the lesson the hard way, and it cost me $10 million to learn this lesson. I'm trying to teach people to learn it now when you have little. And watch the universe just, you know, it just is amazing. It's the best, the most important, profound lesson I've learned in my entire life.
Is giving. I think that you're telling a story I was thinking about when I was a young man, and shortly after I read your book at 19, and I started making some money, and I had a spiritual advisor come to me, and he said, "What are you doing with your money?" And I said, I don't know. I'm making it. Like, I was one focus driven.
Yeah, sure.
And he was sort of a mentor to me on my spiritual side, and he said, and he kind of the same story. He said, "I want you to challenge just to go give it away. Go give it away." And I said, "Well, to who?" And he said, "Well, it doesn't really matter."
Doesn't matter.
He said, "Go give it away."
Where does your heart tell you to give it?
And we were talking one day, and he began to tell me a story, an example, and of what you brought up, which made me think of it, was the people on the street that are asking for money,
right?
Panning, you know, saying hold the signs out. And I was with him one day, and he pulled over, and we were driving, and there was someone there, and he said, "You got cash on you?" I said, "I do." He said, "Give it to that person there." And I said, "Well, isn't he going to," the next words, right?
Yeah.
Drink it, smoke it, whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly.
And I remember he said, "Well, that's none of your business." He said, "Who are you to judge him?"
That's none of your business.
Who are you to judge him? You don't know where he's been, what he's gone through. And it was the point of what you're talking about, the universe, of you have to give in a humble, with zero things in return.
Yeah.
And just to give, and just to put it out. And from that day forward, I have looked forward to the opportunities when I see a person, and I'll stop the car, I'll pull over.
Yeah.
I have turned my car around, went to an ATM in a gas station, paid the $3 or $4 fee, came back, pulled around just to give that person. And it's been one of those things that have stuck with me. And I've made it just a goal in my life that every time I see it, that is an immediate opportunity for me to be thankful of what I have. How much that 1/1000th that we're in, to be blessed. And it's so it's true that and I saw the sincerity and truth in your eyes talking about giving. You're not talking about it from a theoretical standpoint or a philosophical standpoint, but you're talking about from an actionable, livable standpoint. Let me change the conversation a little bit. You have obviously in your career have spoken with other titans of the industry and been on stages with some of the greatest out there that are in our fields. Just out of a fun topic, who would you say has been one of the other speakers that you have enjoyed traveling with, speaking with in your 40 years here?
Robert Kiyosaki read Creating Wealth. His wife and he read Creating Wealth in late 80s.
Okay. And
his wife, he told this story to this audience of 11,000 people who were speaking to in Tokyo 2 years ago. And I challenged him in there to write, to buy 20 properties, to 2 properties a year for 10 years, and that'll set you free.
In the book.
In the book, in Creating Wealth, yep. And so he gave this book to his wife, and she went and bought her 20 properties in 18 months. And that was just set her on, and now they own thousands of properties.
Sure.
But Robert is the reason I'm telling that story is because he's a pretty gruff guy on media. He's pretty gruff, and sometimes he's even nasty sometimes. But in my experience with him, he was so gracious to our people, and he was just funny and humorous. But he's often shows another side that isn't that way, And I was really impressed, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
He was so gracious and
Interesting.
so personable and one-on-one, and just, so that's a great experience. And
Robert Kiyosaki.
Kiyosaki, yeah.
Great. Speaking with him many times on stages, and I had he introduced me in Singapore.
Sure.
There was about 5,000 people there, and I was one of the speakers. And he brought me out, introduced me to speak, and they kind of gave us a. I was watching the speakers go ahead of me, and he would introduce us, and then he would kind of give us the mic and give us a 3 or 4 minute opportunity to talk about what we're going to talk about it later in the event. And I thought about it, and I said, when I went up there, I said, I'm going to tell the story of, and I've already told you the story about, I got home from a summer break, and his book was laying in the floor, and read the book that summer, and I kind of told the story there when he introduced me. But Robert was a tremendous, very, very pleasant on a personal level. And made me think of another thing that I want to give you a compliment on, and I want to get your opinion on this as well. I have found that interviewing so many people and all kinds of bigwigs and in the entrepreneurial world, that there's a common denominator that I find, several common denominators, but one that I find very, very every single time is when I'm interviewing, and I don't just mean in the interview process, I mean in my office, talking, whatever it is. Everybody that I've interviewed, when you come in here, people are very, very busy. These are people that I have booked weeks in advance and been trying to get them. But the ones that I find the common denominator, and you have this gift, and I do think it's part of a gift, but I think you can train it as well, is when they have put it in their schedule, you call it your must.
Yeah.
And when they're there, that's where they're at.
Yeah.
That's where they're at. They're not somewhere else. They're just there. And I felt like all day today you've had that gift of you're where your feet are, your mind's where your body's at, and you're not on the distance talking, working on other projects, and I'm sure there's 1,000 things you could be doing right now. But I found that as a common denominator is that in successful people they just have an ability and a gift and a character to just be where they're at. Do you find that in your career that successful people have this ability to be where they're at?
I haven't really thought of that before. That's a good one. That's really good. There's only one time when you can make any change anyway, and that's right now. So if your now is all multiple thoughts going on in your head, yeah, I'll notice that from now on.
I think it goes back to what we talked about earlier, is the impact. It's hard to impact someone if you're not there.
Yeah.
And this even goes to books, though, because when you wrote the book, which changed my life, Multiple Streams of Income, you were there in that book. You put your blood, sweat, tears into this book, and you wrote it during your bankruptcy.
Yeah.
It was raw. And being there, even in that book, is what impacts people. Being in the meeting, but just being there. It's how you create the impact I think that so many people are looking for. And I think you've had that gift in your books, and I think you have that gift in person, that when you're there, you're there. And it's a compliment to you. And I find that when I've interviewed Kevin O'Leary, I'll never forget the interview with Kevin O'Leary, and they came to me and said, you have this amount of time, be here, and we have to leave here. And I had to go preset everything up, and I was in Pittsburgh when we did it, and it was his assistants were coming to me in advance, and then right before he got there, they were there waiting and making sure everything was done before he got there. And I thought, man, this is going to be so awkward because he's going to be so. And he had just had interviews with news stations, and we were in a big theater, and he was speaking there, and he had 4 or 5 news stations there. They were set up. He interviewed each of them, and he comes to me. This is like my 3rd interview, and I'm in this little rinky-dink little closet, and my guys had these small and they had these massive cameras, and I was like, oh no. But I'll never forget when he came in there, those 45 minutes.
He was there.
There was nothing else going on in his world, except for that interview, that time. And I see that same thing in you and other people that I've interviewed throughout that time. Let me ask you a piece of advice for maybe the viewers listening. If you gave some advice as to, there's a lot of viewers that are wanting to go into business, right? They're wanting to start their business. or maybe they just started their business or real estate career that's there. But if you find that person, I want you to talk to and give some advice to. What would you tell that person that wants to start but just hasn't pulled the trigger yet, hasn't taken the action yet? What's some advice you can give on those 40 years of training and teaching so far that you would tell the entrepreneur wanting to start?
If you have a really clear dream, and this is where people get all messed up, their dream is not that clear. So what do you really want? And then you need a vehicle that'll get you there. So the first step is to get clear in all 5 senses. This is what I want, this is when I want it. There's 7 questions. This is what I want, this is when I want it, this is where I want it, this is who I want it with, this is why I want it, and this is how I'm going to get it. The how part is the weaker question. And this is where poor people always start. They always ask, well, how am I going to do that?
Interesting.
You know? How am I going to do that? And I'm going to ask you, well, why? What do you want? So get really clear on those 7 questions. That's called clarity. And then the vehicle you choose. You have to choose a vehicle, and it could be real estate, it could be the stock market, it could be information marketing, it could be network marketing, it could be start launching, all kinds of businesses. There's all kinds of ways you can do it. But you have to choose a vehicle, and you have to have a system. Whatever vehicle you choose, what is the system to that? Because if you don't have a system, you're not going to work it. Usually when you get really clear on what you really, really, really want, it starts to melt this doubt inside you. You have this doubt, like, how am I going to pull this off? You see where the how word came back again? It's because the first of the 6 questions it didn't get answered. And once you get really clear, like, this is important to me. Like, this is so important to me that I'm willing to prioritize it. What does prioritize mean? It means to prior it. It means prior everything else. This thing gets done. And right now, you're not prioritizing the fact that if it's real estate you want to buy and you haven't been able to pull the trigger, as you say, well, it's obviously not important to you. So die poor. What can I tell you? That's what's going to happen. So if you make it really important to you, that means you're going to do it. You'll do something. It means even if you're afraid. I'm terrified when I'm doing most of my things, you know. I was so terrified when I took my manuscript to Simon & Schuster, the president of Simon & Schuster, at the Booksellers Convention in 1978. And have a mentor. I don't want to forget that. My mentor was a gal who was #1 New York Times bestseller, and she was right here in this valley. And she wrote a book called Roughing It Easy.
Okay.
And it was a 1 million copy bestseller, and she'd been on Johnny Carson, and she was #1 New York Times bestseller. And I went to her and I said, I'm a nobody, I'm a nothing, I'm just this real estate investor guy. But I got this manuscript and I want to publish it. What should I do? She said, you're going to go to the Booksellers Convention with me. She took me to the Booksellers Convention, and I had to fib a little bit on the fact that I wasn't an author. I was the best. Whenever you write anything, you're an author, so forget that. So I went in, and she introduced me to some people, and I went up to the president of Simon & Schuster, Richard Snyder, and I said, he's a short Jewish fellow, but so powerful and so connected and amazing. Reason he was #1 in that #1 industry. And I said, here's your book. This is your next bestseller. And I was absolutely terrified to give him that book. And he goes, looks good, kid. Meet some of my team back here in just a few minutes, and we'll take your manuscript and we'll see what happens. So you're never going to be not terrified. As you get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, you're just going to have bigger things to be afraid of. So get over it,
Yeah. And that clarity, creating the clarity on those questions you ask, helps melt that doubt away.
It just melts it. Now, most people, and we probably don't have time to go too deep, but the critical voice, everybody has one, and that's a doubter that causes you to doubt yourself. And people go, yeah, do you have a critical voice? Yeah. What does it say? You can't do it. You're stupid. You're an idiot. You're not enough. You're not enough of anything. And you'll never be enough. And maybe they heard that from their parents. I never heard that from my dad, but I still had that voice. So we all have these voices.
Interesting.
And we have a true voice. The true voice whispers to you. The critical voice nags at you and tells you negative stuff about yourself. And I want you just to be really clear that the critical voice is a liar, does not want you to win. And if you believe it, it comes true. It comes true. You cannot believe it. So this critical voice, you got to learn how to turn that volume down. Because everybody has one.
Sure.
And you have to turn the volume up of your true voice. And your true voice is that part of you that knows you are awesome. And as I said in my spiritual belief, you have a soul in there that is, wow, awesome. The very first breath you take, you brought with you awesomeness.
Yeah.
And somebody's trying to beat you out of it for the rest of your life, but it's still in there, deep in part of you. And so you have to listen to that true voice. And that's where you just go, should I do this? Is this right for me? Does this feel good? Does this feel right? You use your intuition. Your intuition, when I went into my boss and quit my job, when I got the hunch to go write a book, that's intuition.
Yeah.
Write a book. What should we call it? Nothing Down. I had the title. Came, boom. I went into my boss a couple of days later, and I was a real estate investment advisor, and I was making commissions selling real estate. And I said, gentlemen, here's my real estate license. I will never sell another piece of real estate again. And they said, Bob, we've been training you to get to be the best of the best, and you'll never do real estate again? Never, in terms of selling it.
Sure.
And I said, no, I'm going to go write a book. So I went to my wife. I had to sell her into it. Like, let's go to Hawaii, and I'll write this book. And we went to Hawaii, and it was intuitive. What I'm trying to get to is there's this true part of you is intuitive, and it kind of knows who you are at the deepest level, and I think that's different than inspiration, which I think, depending upon your personal belief, whereas the universe is saying, do this, don't do that, and it's both. You gotta use them both. And most people don't listen to inspiration. They don't listen to their intuition. They listen to their critical voice, and the truth happens. The truth is, you're worthless. If you believe that, you're worthless. And therefore, don't believe that. That critical voice is a liar, doesn't want you to win. I don't know if it's you, to tell you the truth. People go, well, that's just me. Why would you say that to yourself? Why would you talk like that to yourself? Why would you beat yourself up like that? Well, because I'm worthless. Why do you think you're worthless? Because that little voice tells me I'm worthless. That voice is a liar, so stop it. And so that's a part of mindset stuff, see?
Sure.
You got to work on that. And some people don't. Those two guys sitting in the audience, one of them does it and the other one doesn't, usually because the one that doesn't believe they can do it. And they have this doubter. I need you to doubt your doubter.
That's good.
Your doubter is a liar, so doubt it. And I need you to believe that part of you that just you feel it right in here. This is where you know truth. And you know the truth about you, and it's right there. And you feel it, and you go, truth, technically, I mean, I'm not as bad as that critical voice says I am. Yeah, come on. And if you're an entrepreneur, and the critical voice tells you can't do it, an entrepreneur goes back, watch me.
Yeah.
Because they love to be challenged.
Yeah, for sure.
And entrepreneurs love that. So if you're an entrepreneur and you hear that critical voice, challenge it. Say, watch me. Because you tell me I can't do it means I must do it.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
So
I love that.
So anyway, those 4 skills were what do you love to do? Passion. What are you good at? Talent. What's important to you? Value. And finally, how does all that mix into what is your destiny? Why are you here anyway? You got to make sure you get done what you're supposed to get done while you're here, because life is short, right?
Sure.
As I get into my 70s, I realize that. So you have a destiny. You have a something that a legacy you're going to leave. What kind of legacy do you want to leave? Well, it's going to be wrapped around those 3 things. Okay, so why do I not buy real estate anymore? Because I'm not passionate about it.
Yes.
What am I passionate about? Can you tell?
Mindset.
Can you tell? And I'm passionate about teaching, and there's a few of you that are watching, and you're going to go, I needed to hear what those guys were saying. This may be the moment that changes your entire life. I was sent here to say this to a few of you, and many of the rest will go, oh, no, and they'll just, they won't get it. But your audience, the ones you were destined to speak to, they get it. And they resonate with it like a tuning fork. And everybody else's tuning forks go, didn't get it. And for a long time, my critical voice, I know I'm speaking personally here, I'd speak to an audience and there'd be 5,000 people or 500 people, and I would notice the negative faces.
Yeah.
And I would pick them out, and I would try to convince the negative faces and go, come on, can't you tell how good this crap is? You know,
Yeah.
this stuff is. And when I finally switched to noticing the smiley faces, the frowny faces are never going to change. So you can't change them, don't try. You are not sent to change them.
Yep.
Life was sent to change them. It'll beat them up enough. Talk to the smiley faces. And so I started to change the way I thought about what people think of me, because that's what most people are worried about. What do people think of me? And I was noticing the frowny faces. And I look at the smiley faces. They think they love me. Okay, well, let me talk to them. And then when I spoke to the smiley faces, the frowny faces came along. But when I spoke to the frowny faces, smiley faces go, well, this guy's not talking to me. He's not resonating with me. So anyway, those are what I call purpose. So it's a long answer to come back to that. This is what you're supposed to do. This is what you asked me, why am I here?
Yeah.
Why am I not, retired?
Why do you keep driving?
I'm never going to retire. And neither is Celine Dion.
Sure.
Celine Dion sings the same song over and over again. Why? Because she was born to sing that song. She was born to. And I was born to say, this is my song. I was born to sing this song. I have certain parts of it that I've learned the lessons over the years, and this is what I will do forever, really.
I love it.
And so that's why I'm here.
Such a powerful, powerful answer, and a much deeper answer that I thought you were going to give, and I love it. And it's such clarity with those 4 questions you asked there. Robert, obviously I could talk to you for hours and hours and hours and listen to you talk for hours and hours and hours. But for the time, I want to kind of bring it down, wrap it up to one of my favorite questions I get to ask all the guests, which is the money is question. And perhaps you've already answered it. Yeah. And I don't know yet. I'm going to give you this Sharpie here. You can take this Sharpie here, and then I'll hand you this, and this is your money is a sign here. So you put your answer here, and then put your big John Hancock right below this right here, and then me and you are going to talk about why you went with this answer.
All right. Well, I don't know if it's supposed to be, okay. Freedom to give.
Oh, I like that one.
All right.
Robert Allen. Freedom to give. So you added these last 2 words, which I think are probably some of the most powerful words when it comes to money, are these 2 words right here.
Right.
And if you can understand what these 2 words mean, do, and can create for you, it's powerful.
Freedom will either be freedom to take or freedom to give, frankly.
It's good.
And most people who are into money only, they're freedom to take. And they go take. And the money is important to them, and they hoard it, and they don't want to give it away, and every penny is so. Yeah, look at the billionaires.
Right.
Massive givers.
Right.
Massive, and they'll be careful with their pennies, and they'll give away their billions. So the reason they have billions to give away is because they give, and they've always given.
That's so true. What a great answer, Robert. Money is freedom to give. And if you can just break through on that, we've talked about earlier, if you can just break through, because it doesn't actually make sense.
No, it's counterintuitive.
Yes.
Freedom, people say about giving, when I give money, I'm subtracting from my wealth, right?
My net worth.
No, freedom to give means when you give, you multiply your wealth. Freedom, giving is a multiplier, not a subtractor. And most people who are stuck with money, they think it's a subtractor. It's a multiplier.
I think. Let me ask you this question. As you were talking, I was thinking about it. I also think that when you give, you are not allowing money to control you. And I think so many people that are takers, money can actually controls them.
Yeah, exactly.
But when you can break through this and learn how to give it, you're almost like superseding the money and saying the money doesn't control me, I control the money. Therefore, I can make decisions based off of what I want to do with the money versus the money telling me what to go do with it.
Never thought of it that way. That's nice. Very nice.
Because money can control so many people.
Nice distinction.
And it does. Robert, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. I hope and pray we can get you back on the show sometime. Maybe when you release the new book, come back on the show. We'd love to talk to you about the book and actually go deeper in the book with you, your new book coming out.
I love it.
But if they want to get a copy of your books that you have, or any of the courses you have, they can still go to robertallen.com.
Yeah, go to robertallen.com or go to amazon.com and buy a used copy for $1. All of my books.
There you go. You get a used copy on Amazon. Robert, I love having the show. For those that are watching, I appreciate you guys coming to the Money Is Show. We'll see you next week with another guest on the Money Is Show.